The episode I'm sharing today was pulled from a new Facebook Live series I am doing all about online business topics. Right now feels like the right time to share everything I know about this topic freely. So if you have even a passing interest in making money online or you know someone else who does, please like my new page at facebook.com/Jen Obermeyer and turn on notifications for live videos. I will not be selling a single thing through this side venture, just teaching for free and sharing resources, sharing tutorials, and basically pulling back the curtain and breaking things down step by step so that you can, number one, know what options you have and what they look like, and number two, avoid getting burned by someone trying to sell you information that is actually freely available. So the content today is not specific to professional organizers, but it may definitely relate to projects you're thinking of working on for your business while we are temporarily slowed down from in-home client work. Enjoy.
You're listening to the Pro Organizer Studio podcast with Jen Obermeyer. Thank you for joining in. Jen makes it her mission to broaden the horizons of savvy businesswomen in the organizing industry by instilling confidence and inspiring authenticity. She is a devoted business coach and founder of the Inspired Organizer program. You'll gain new insight into strategies designed specifically for professional organizers. And now, let's get started.
Hello, everyone. It's Jen Obermeyer, and I'm excited to be here with you tonight. Hope that you guys are doing well. The topic that we are going to touch on today is very much, let me just say it in advance, disclaimer, I am not a lawyer, but what I want to share today are some legal considerations as you are setting up your online business, setting up your website, thinking about the terms and conditions and stuff you need to know about the products that you're going to be selling and the services that you're potentially going to be offering. Because as with every business, there are some legal setup-ish kinds of things that while it might not be a big deal at first, eventually you are going to need to kind of comb through these things and make sure that you have your bases covered. So I'm going to be talking about what those things even are. Even though, like I said, in this topic, I'm not going to be teaching you everything you need to know for free. I am very much going to kind of give you a list of here are the things that you need to research. I'll give you all the free resources that I possibly can, and then also give you some paid resources that I am familiar with, i.e. friends with, that I trust, that really specialize in online business legal stuff for coaches, for consultants, for people who sell anything online, whether it's a product or a service. So let's start at square one, which is when you do have a let's start with actually the thing that you're selling. Now, when you are providing a service such as coaching or consulting, it has probably crossed your mind that you're going to need to have some type of contract. So again, beyond the scope of me, teaching you everything, and it needs to go in the contract, there are tons of free resources about this on the internet. So you can either go ahead and Google it, or I'll post some links to get you going in the right direction. I think the important thing for you to know that I think is overwhelming for most people is that they believe that their contract must be customized and written by a lawyer in order for it to protect you legally. And that is actually not entirely true. I mean, at a certain point in your business, you may want to have a lawyer review your contracts in order to really make sure that you have thought of every possible detail that could go wrong or ever will go wrong. A contract, and in fact, there are many websites that will sell a contract template, and that can be something like LegalZoom, or it can be something more specific like my friend Annette, who I'm going to share her resource with you at the end of this, or I'll go back and post the link in the description. She is a lawyer, and she sells contract templates that are kind of that good in between where she has already thought of everything for you. Like, let's say you're a coach and you're selling coaching services. She has already thought of everything for you. So all you have to do is download it and fill in the blanks, essentially, and you have a working contract. That will still not be as customized as it would be for you to work with a contract lawyer that was specific to your business. But again, that's a much more expensive option, and it just may not be necessary until down the line. But even if you put together your own contract, that is at least some level of protection. Now, you may not have thought of everything that could go wrong, but it's some level of protection if a client ever were to sue you. That would be awful, but you have to at least put, you have had somewhere where you guys have both signed off on what you believed at the time was the best understanding of your working relationship that you could put on paper. So at least you have a starting point with a contract that has not been written by a lawyer, that you have kind of pulled together from multiple sources. Like I said, there's actually a lot of really good free resources for that type of thing too. So if you're selling a coaching service, that is probably a little more obvious. What may be less obvious is if you are working with, like, let's say you are working with an independent contractor who is going to be managing your social media. That also requires a contract. Like, it's truly not going to be the end of the world if you have somebody do a little bit of work for you and you didn't have a contract, but you didn't really expect it to be a long-term relationship. Like, they were just helping you get your Facebook page set up. You probably don't need a contract for that. But for someone who you are expecting to have sort of a set of things that they're responsible for, the only way you will ever be able to hold them responsible for it, so that they don't take your money and run, is to have something in writing. So be thinking about contracts not only for your clients, but also for anybody that you work with. And then last but not least, when you are, even if you're not selling a service, your products or your courses or any other type of like online program, whether it's a group coaching program or sort of a workshop series or whatever it is that you're selling, that's not just literally like an ebook download. It's something that you do have to put work into. You need to have a contract, so to speak, even though what they would really call it is like the terms and conditions of enrolling in this program or purchasing that material. One of the most important things is to make sure that this, not only do they understand what the payment terms are and what the refund conditions are, but also that it protects you and your intellectual property. And that, again, is something that legally down the road you may want to be thinking about. Like, do you want to trademark your program or trademark your method of anything? My course at this point is trademarked legally, so that means nobody can use a similar, they can't use the name to sell a similar product or what have you. So your terms and conditions for even selling a course is like a contract between you and that person. Here's my end of the deal. Here's your end of the deal. You need to have that sort of researched in terms of like something that they would accept, like check the box when they enroll or sign up. And then lastly, if you are selling a product that's just like, hey, it's an ebook download, like maybe your terms and conditions are as simple as you may not sell or redistribute this product as your own, and all sales are final because I'm giving you the download and you have it on your computer. Like, you can't return that. So I would say, if you're not very familiar with the online business world, that it is fairly common for like a downloadable product to be non-refundable. And then for courses and that kind of thing, there's typically like a 30-day guarantee or refund period, to where, and there's a variety of different ways to handle it, sorry, there's a truck going by. Whether you are giving them 30 days to completely go in and get all of the content and do everything, and then they get a refund, no questions asked. Some people do that. Other people implement more of like you actually have to do the work and show up to the calls kind of thing. Like, you can't just change your mind later because you lost interest or whatever. So they implement more of like a refund policy like that. So for courses, the refund policy can vary greatly, but you want to be making sure that it is crystal clear that in all of your communication with your students, and on your sales page and in the follow-up emails, that you are doing your due diligence in making sure that it is very clear what that refund policy is. So as you're doing some research about whatever it is that you're selling, make sure that you're looking for, you're searching for things like terms and conditions for a course, or a coaching contract, or a group coaching workshop contract. And again, it doesn't have to be something big and scary, but it is something that you are putting out there and then your students or your clients are agreeing to. And that just makes you look professional too. It really makes you look like, hey, like I take this seriously. I'm not just like throwing something out there and trying to like, scramble some money together off the internet and then not deliver what I promised. So it really protects not only the student, but also you. Melissa's here. Hi, Melissa. Okay. So I kind of wanted to start at the end with like your legal sort of considerations around the things that you're actually selling. And then I'm going to back up from there. Okay. So in the sort of general sense, your one thing that you will need to probably learn first are the legal considerations around we've talked about building an email list. Now, when you actually start to email that email list, you will come across, for example, you as a business owner, you can't send out emails that don't have an address on them. Like it is a law that you have to have a business address on you at the bottom. Like if you're sending out a mass email, not a one-on-one email, but a mass email to your email list, you've got to provide an address. That's the legality. So what I have done, or what I've been doing for years, is I have a PO box. So I'm not putting my personal address like on like emails that go out to thousands of people around the world. So that will be something that at first you might not feel like it's a big deal, but as you want your business to grow, it's something that is a small investment, is very worth it. Another thing about email lists that you may be aware of, because if you've been on an email list, you have probably seen this. You have to opt in to an email list. Nobody can email you, like they can't just steal your email off of LinkedIn and then add you to a list without your consent. So the opt-in part of the email opt-in with like the freebie, we've been talking about that very strategically in terms of making sure that you're attracting the right people. But that also is like an actual legal matter. Like you can't just, borrow a bunch of email addresses from like your networking group and then say, oh, I got a list of 500 people and I can sell them something. You cannot do that. So do not do that. Do not do that. It's very bad form. And people will report you as spam. And when they report your email as spam, then none of your future emails, or more of your future emails that you send, are just going to go straight to spam anyway. So it's really not a good strategy. Don't do that. But in all fairness, a lot of people don't realize that is an actual like requirement to use an email list program like MailChimp, or I guess we haven't gone into super detail, but we talked about MailChimp and we talked about ConvertKit. So another thing is there are new laws that have gone into effect over the past few years about compliance, especially if you have people on your list that live in Europe. They have stricter, in a nutshell, they have stricter laws about how their citizens how their email addresses can be used, and what have you. So if you come across the acronym GDPR, you do not have to become a lawyer to understand this. It is very confusing. But when you see something that says GDPR compliant, that's a good thing. You want that, because if you're going to be having people on your list ever that live in Europe, you could be held liable, some say for millions of dollars, but I'm thinking if your business is not worth millions of dollars, I don't know how they can charge you that much, but you can be held personally liable for sending emails that were not GDPR compliant to people in the European Union. So that is something not to ignore. Like when you go through like the checklist of setting up MailChimp for the first time, whatever it is that says, hey, in order to ensure that your account is GDPR compliant, you have to follow these steps. Do all of those steps. Even if you don't think you're ever going to have somebody from Europe on your email list, just go ahead and do it, because it's not going to hurt anything. Some people say that eventually the US will have stricter privacy laws, but who knows when that's going to happen. So talking about email is a big sort of, not illegal. Like, I think that's probably the most common area of confusion, whereas some of these other things are a little bit more straightforward. So I would say email is an area that you will need to just be up to speed with and understand, hey, here's why I have to do these things. Okay, so we've talked about email lists. The next thing is when you do have a website, your website needs to have two little baby pages on it that are really important. One is going to be a privacy policy that your business has to, you've probably seen this if you ever look at the footer of a website. You can go look at mine on proorganizerstudio.com, just as an example. In the footer, there will be a privacy policy link and then a terms and conditions link. And now this terms and conditions refers to what my visitors are agreeing to when they use my website. And that doesn't have anything to do with whether they ever pay money for a service or for my course or anything. It's terms and conditions of the website. While it may seem very basic, it's just one of those things that you have to put on there. And you need to have it at the bottom of any other page. For example, let's say you're running a Facebook ad in the future one day, and you're running a Facebook ad to a page that does not have terms and conditions or does not have a privacy policy or does not have any contact information. Facebook will not run your ad because you have to really show like, this is a legit business and I am not using people's personal info to sell it, to rent it out, to be basically evil. Don't be evil. So that's really a requirement that maybe it's going to take you half of an afternoon to research and get implemented on your page. And then it's one and done, which is great. Now, when it comes to this, you can Google free privacy policy. And again, I'm going to provide some links for this, but if you want to kind of do your own research, free privacy policy generator, terms and conditions template for a website. There are many free resources out there. And then, as I mentioned, some of these online lawyer template stuff, they'll have like contract templates, and then they'll have a website terms and conditions templates. And then they'll have like the subcontractor templates, like I was saying before, like if you hire somebody to do your social media and you need to have a template. Like my friend Annette, she sells all of these templates in an all-in-one bundle. Yes, it is more expensive than Googling stuff and putting it together yourself, but what you get out of that is the peace of mind of knowing that it is backed by an attorney who is a real person. LegalZoom is also a resource that is a lot cheaper for most everything as well. Like you can get contracts and terms and conditions and that kind of thing. I want to say for like $25 to $50-ish, like in that range. There's absolutely no reason why you need to have a real live lawyer write you a terms and conditions for your website, because it's so much usually similar to other websites. It doesn't really need to be like totally customized. I'm not saying you should go copy paste somebody else's, but if you did do that just to have a placeholder until you got your own done, that would be preferable to not having it. Don't leave it up there forever. I would say like leave it a few days and then come back and finish it. Okay. All right. What are some other things that I haven't thought of? Excuse me while I cheat really quick. I have a little cheat sheet of a few other things, but I really wanted to cover those. Oh yeah, of course. I missed a big one. A lot of people, I mentioned the trademark thing. Sometimes you're going to want to trademark your business itself. Other times you're going to want to trademark like your intellectual property of your course, your book or whatever. Like if you write the next like KonMari method book, like you'd want to like trademark your KonMari brand and the method and all that stuff. Annette also does, so she does trademark registration, legal consultation, contract review as services. And then she also deals with setting up your business formation in terms of, are you an LLC? Are you a sole proprietor? If you have ever had a business of any kind before, you have probably run across some of these distinctions and you're like, well, which one do I need to be if I'm an online business? So your type of business is not likely to have a lot to do with how you choose to form. I would really say in this case, the best advice is to talk to your tax accountant, because it has tax implications more so than legal implications. You can be running an online business as a sole proprietor. There is not a problem with that. In terms of like, are you legally legit? Yes, you are. So my business, just to kind of give you some reference, I had a service business that I was running. It was formed as a sole proprietorship and it stayed that way. When I started Pro Organizer Studio, I did form an LLC I can't really remember what prompted me to do that at that time, other than that I just felt like, okay, this wasn't my first business, and it wasn't just me. I think it definitely gives you sort of like a legitimacy in terms of presenting yourself to the world. I am still taxed as a sole proprietor LLC, like a single member LLC. There's more than one type of LLC. So, Cabri asked a really good question. So I'm going to come back to that in just a second. And then in Annette, this is my other cheat sheet. Pardon me. So her website is yourlegalbff.com. And Annette really is a lovely person. She has been on my podcast before talking about legal startup, like covering your legal bases for professional organizers. But she really can give like industry specific advice to a multitude of types of businesses. And she really knows a lot about online business. So I was just going to browse through her other contracts really quick and make sure, her other templates, and make sure I didn't miss anything. Let's go to that online educator, because that's what I am. She has a template for group coaching or mastermind terms of service. Cover your, you know what, terms of service for an online course. We talked about that. For coaches and consultants, consulting services contract. Again, some of the same things. And then there's the terms and conditions, and privacy policy for a website. She will like bundle that. If you kind of need everything all at once. And that's going to cost you way less than it would cost you to work with and like give you like a contract for like services and that kind of thing. That's going to cost you way less than working with a lawyer one-on-one at like how many hundreds of dollars per hour, $1,000 an hour just to like look at your contract. So a template is like really a good way to go if you don't really trust LegalZoom. Anyway, the one thing I'll also say is that if you attempt to go through LegalZoom for trademarking, what I have heard is that if they mess up your process and you take it to, then you try to take it to another lawyer, that there's something that happens that where they like don't allow that. So if you're going to trademark something, you need to make sure you choose the person wisely. And so somebody like Annette, I would trust way more than like a faceless, no-name person that is a LegalZoom lawyer. Other things like getting a contract template from LegalZoom probably is also not that big of a deal. And then you can still you're still allowed to customize a template to you and your business, which is the beautiful thing. And a lot of people don't realize that it's okay to change your contract. Even if a lawyer did write it, you can edit it slightly for every new client that you sign on, which is sometimes necessary. We assume all jobs or services are going to be similar, but sometimes they're not. So you're allowed to tweak it yourself, even if a lawyer has drafted it for you. Okay, this is a really, really good question. I'm really glad that Cabri asked this. So she said, what would happen if people are stealing your coaching material and passing it on to someone else? And that also brings up a second related question, which is the general stealing of content online, even if it's like not paid content. It's just, hey, it's your Instagram picture, it's your blog post. Like, what happens when people just literally copy and paste that and then they don't give you credit and try to pass it off like theirs? So one of those is more serious than the other. Obviously, Cabri's scenario is worse. But here's what I would say, Cabri, and I unfortunately, sadly, just had a coaching call with someone about this yesterday. And all I can say is that at some point during every online business owner's life, you are going to encounter someone who is using your work inappropriately. And it's sad. And what I said to this person was, this is not lawyer advice. This is just me. If I have one of two approaches, I'm either going to do nothing because it's so obvious that they are taking my work and trying to put their name on the bottom of it and post it in a Facebook group. And I'm like, everybody knows that you're doing that. Like, we all see you doing that. So I can just, again, because it's not my paid content, it's like free content. That I'm like willing to let go. I'm not going to like open a legal battle over that. So what I was saying to my coaching client yesterday was, so there's either 0 or there's 100. So at the point where somebody has, like Cabri said, stolen my trademarked intellectual property material and is selling it or giving it away, then they will hear directly from my lawyer. They will not be hearing from me because it's not going to be mine to deal with. Like, I will engage a legal process in that because, again, when you work on something really hard, you kind of feel like it's your child. So it's emotional, but it doesn't mean that you have to get involved in like sending them an email and saying like, hey, hi, so I noticed that you have stolen my work and are selling it like on your own website or whatever. It is very sad that this happens. It does happen. And then going back to that scenario where somebody is just like, I know just is a big word, but if they're just have copied your Instagram post or they've shared your photo, but they didn't tag you and it's like, hey, that's my original content. Yes, you will need to, first of all, reach out politely and say, hey, you probably didn't know this, but that's my original content. And when it gets shared, it needs to be properly attributed back to the creator. And you can say, you're welcome to use it on your Instagram or whatever, but you need to tag me and also, tag me in the picture and tag me in the comments or however you're asking them to give you credit for it. So in most cases, if sadly you have to hunt this down, but if you ask, then usually they'll say, no problem, I didn't realize or whatever, even though you're thinking, I bet you did. So there's that. And if they don't do it, then Christina Scalera, she's another online lawyer. She has a resource, and I got to hunt this down for you. She has a resource where she's like, okay, here's how to do it. First, you send the nice version. Then secondly, you say, she has a thing where she will invoice the person and say, so since you have not complied, I will now invoice you for this amount for using the work without credit. Like, that will now cost you. So she kind of like approaches it super sweetly, but also professionally. And then as a third pass, if they're still not complying, then you can go like through a more legal process if it's worth it to you to like have somebody like cut that off and take it down. So it's more of like a cease and desist situation where the person literally gets a letter from your lawyer and hopefully at that point complies. Okay. So Cabri, let me know if that answers your questions. Obviously, I'm going to say this like 15 million times. I'm not a lawyer, but this is what I have learned about all of this stuff over many years of business. So Cabri also asked, can you give some examples on which situations would be best for trademark, copyright, or patents? Like, how would these apply? Ooh, this is really good. So here's the thing about trademarks is you can begin using, like, as soon as you intend to trademark a product of yours, you can begin using that little like superscript TM symbol next to every time you write it. Like, I went through the process of trademarking Inspired Organizer. So what I did first was I just started using Inspired Organizer TM every single time I put it out there, because what you want to show is that if for some crazy reason somebody else had started the trademarking process a few months later for the exact same thing, you want to be able to like prove going back that you were using it in an intent to trademark at an earlier date. So that TM symbol, all that means at that point is there's an intent to trademark it. And so therefore it would discourage other people from using it or trying to get a trademark ahead of you. Then once your trademark is approved, then you can use the little like R with the circle around it and that indicates that it is actually a legally registered trademark. And at that point it is yours forevermore. Copyright is, that's a really good question because I don't know the answer. I think copyright, you can say like, for example, you'll see on most at the bottom of most websites that like it'll say mine is copyright 2020 Pro Organizer Studio LLC, which is my legal business name. And so you can put that at the bottom of every website, every blog that you have, just as part of your footer. And again, that's more of like it shows like, hey, this is my work. But I don't know beyond that how, because copyright infringement is definitely a thing, and I'm not sure when that would apply. I don't know what would have to happen to prove copyright infringement. So that's a really good question I can research. Excuse me. Patents are like for inventions, for products, other things. I actually, one of my husband's best friends is a patent lawyer. So if we really wanted to like find out, we could. But my understanding is, in most cases, that's more of intellectual. I mean, intellectual property is a big deal, and you can patent intellectual property. But that usually applies for small businesses, like when you have designed a like a physical product or something that like has a formula to it, like a sewing pattern or a recipe. I don't know if you can patent a recipe, but if it's that kind of thing, that might be a call for a patent versus a trademark. But yeah, you're definitely don't listen to me on that one. Okay. Kelly said, okay, let me circle back on the rest of Cabri's comment, and then I'll go back to Kelly. Cabri said, there are people who I've come across who have taken pictures, blogs, courses, etc., that feels like someone else in a similar industry. I make a point to ask them some tough questions about their content. I love the way you said that. And she said, normally they can't answer questions or give you BS answers. You can tell if the content was genuinely theirs. Yes. So as a consumer, I think that is disturbing. I think that one of the things that you can do is, especially if you are a student or a client of the other person, I mean, obviously you're really familiar with their work, shoot them an email and be like, by the way, you may know this, you may not, but so-and-so's work over here feels so much like yours. I'm just curious, like, do you guys have a working relationship? And are you aware that their blog post is like just a few words off of yours? I mean, that's literally plagiarism, because you have to change a lot of words to not be plagiarizing. So yeah, so Cabri, when it's you seeing it happen to someone else, I think, there's probably not a lot you can do to like take down this other person. But just kind of sending it along to the customer service department of the person who seems like they're being copied, I think is the good human thing to do. And then not giving your business to the person who seems like they pretty much stole all that stuff is probably also the good human thing to do. It does really boggle my mind. It's like, it is so hard to put anything out there. Like, you're putting yourself out there in an online business, and it's like, why go through the effort if it's not even your own stuff? Like, that just seems like karma will just come back to get you so quickly. All right, Kelly has a comment about the business formation. She said that S Corp LLCs, which are a different type of LLC, will protect your personal assets as well as giving more opportunities for other deductions. She said it's the most common and easiest LLC to set up. With LegalZoom, make sure that you check off that you want to be the power of attorney and IRS correspondence, not LegalZoom. It's much easier to change errors that way. Okay, that's really good advice. Again, my biggest recommendation is to not make that decision. Like, you can start a business as a sole proprietor, but when you do change your formation, don't make that decision based on something you read on Pinterest. Excuse me. You need to go to your tax accountant and talk to them about what is most beneficial in your situation. For example, when my husband and I got married, and I had this business already existed, and so when we got married, we discussed whether or not the formation should change to an S Corp. But what the guy did was he looked at our specific situation and kind of weighed like the pros and cons. And then we decided to leave it as it is. So again, that's something that can really vary based on you and your family circumstances and whoever's assets are joined along with yours. Kelly said, yep, go see a CPA. Kelly sounds like she knows about this stuff. So that's awesome. All right, guys. So as promised, trying to keep it short, to the point, but also guide you in the right direction and not have you be stuck or not sure, but also just aware of kind of here are some things that need to be on your list. It probably doesn't have to happen today, but it does need to happen at some point. And it just gives you like a sense of peace and security that you are running your business legitimately, and that you have you're not like overlooking this huge thing or some huge way for someone to take advantage of you and take your content. Like, that is bad. Cabri said, especially, she loves this chat, especially because it's tough and nobody wants to think about these things until it's too late. Yeah, for sure. And Kelly said in her prior life, she managed a CPA firm for 5 years. Ooh, that's I feel like that's like really good knowledge to have too. Okay, so I think the one thing we didn't really talk about was, you need to have a CPA. You need to have, at some point in your business, this is not really legal, but at some point in your business, no matter what kind of business you have, go meet with an actual CPA at least one time, because they will give you some direction for how to handle business finances, things that are deductible for your industry. Like it really depends, it depends on a lot of things. So they'll kind of give you like all the basics that you need to know. And then you'll decide, do you just want to have them do your taxes once a year, or do you want to have them maybe manage your bookkeeping every month? Like maybe you want to go all the way, or maybe you just want to sort of do it yourself and then keep all your own records and send it to them for tax time. So this is definitely a list of things that I consider like business adulting. The first time you go meet with a CPA, the first time you go meet with a lawyer, what else? All kinds of things. Make you like, they just really make you feel like confident about your business, because once you've done it once, you're just like, that wasn't so scary. Yeah, Kelly said $100 meeting is worth years of frustrations, and I could not agree more. All right, people, this was a pleasure as always. I will be back tomorrow, and my agenda for tomorrow is to discuss some things related to SEO, which is search engine optimization. We have touched on this a few times in terms of blogging and setting up your YouTube channel. But I want to go a little deeper into that and give you some more direction with like what you need to be looking for, things that you can do yourself that are very easy, other things that maybe will require a little bit more time and education, or again, potentially hiring out down the road. So it'll be kind of a similar conversation today, where we're just kind of like going another layer deeper. But anyway, I enjoy talking to you guys always, and have a great night. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Pro Organizers Studio podcast. If you'd like to learn more about time-saving services and resources for professional organizers, visit www.proorganizerstudio.com. And if you'd like to get Jen's roadmap to success for launching and growing your professional organizing business, go straight to www.proroadmap.com.